Good morning and welcome to Kenya. I hope you enjoyed some of those pictures, and Patty had a chance to explain what all of those pictures were about, various animals that we've photographed, and pictures of some of the boys that we've worked with over the course of the last 20 years. I want to give you a brief introduction to the study that you're going to be doing on Cleopas and the book that I wrote of the same name. Cleopas is not a well-known biblical figure. He's referred to in Luke 24, verse 18, as one of the disciples that Jesus meets on the road to Emmaus immediately after his resurrection. The other disciple is not named, but it's my opinion that that was his wife. He was in Jerusalem, Cleopas, for Passover weekend, and it would seem odd to me that he leaves the city without his wife. And his wife is the other Mary, who's at the tomb on Easter Sunday morning. So the question that I asked myself when I started this book was, why would Cleopas be leaving if he wasn't going with his wife? And of course, the book follows the fictional story, or at least the imagination in my mind, that they had a home outside of Jerusalem in Emmaus, just a few miles away from Jerusalem, and that perhaps their sons, who were also disciples of Jesus, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit, were staying there after the crucifixion of Jesus, and were hiding out at their home in Emmaus. So the storyline follows that Cleopas and his wife are on their way to Emmaus and are debating the facts that have taken place during the last few hours. Mary's report that she had seen angels announce the resurrection of Jesus, and you can read those accounts for yourself, and all of a sudden they meet Jesus on the road. And of course he clarifies who he is and what has happened to him over the past few days, and how Scripture describes that in the Old Testament. Now, Cleopas has a connection to the Holy Family, not just through his wife, Mary, who some believe was actually a sister of the Virgin Mary, but Cleopas himself, most likely, was a brother to Joseph, the husband of the Virgin Mary. And the logic goes like this. In 180 AD, a second century bishop by the name of Eusebius quotes a church father, Hegesippus. Now, Hegesippus interviewed the grandson of Jude the Apostle, Jude Thaddeus. And in that interview, Jude's grandson notes, and this is written down, that Cleopas was in fact the brother of Joseph. As well, another church father by the name of Papias of Hierapolis, who lived between 70 and 163 AD, so actually was alive while John was an old man, John the disciple. He records that Cleopas in his writings and Alphaeus were the same person. Now, Eusebius also notes that the other Mary at the tomb was in fact the wife of Cleopas and the mother of the apostles James, Jude, and Simon the Zealot. They're not well-known disciples, but they are noted in this writing by Eusebius that those three disciples were the children of Mary and Cleopas. Cleopas is regarded as a saint in the Orthodox Church and is remembered on October 30th particularly. Now, Scripture does, if Cleopas and Alphaeus, according to this church father Papias, are the same person, Scripture does call James and Matthew sons of Alphaeus or sons of Cleopas. So isn't that interesting that not just three, but maybe four of the disciples of Jesus were in fact children of Cleopas and Mary, And because, if we're following the logic, Cleopas as a brother of Joseph, that would have made these four disciples, Matthew, Jude, Simon, and James, all cousins of Jesus, in addition to the two sons of Zebedee and Salome, James and John. So that makes 6 disciples that I'm proposing were in fact first cousins of Jesus. Now, as the father of 4 of the disciples, it would be logical for Cleopas to be privy to some of the events that are described in the Gospels. And obviously he's not referred to in a major way, so I thought, well, why not create a story where Cleopas witnessed the events, and if he was one of the disciples of Jesus, perhaps part of that family group that did not fall away from Jesus. You remember Scripture does record for us that there was a division within the family of Jesus, and some of them actually walked away from him. Perhaps Cleopas was not one of those. At least that's what I'm proposing. The book takes place fictionally 20 years after the ascension of Jesus, and Cleopas writes this book. It's sort of a memoir for the benefit of his grandchildren. Now, 20 years after the ascension of Jesus would put the time period precisely in the time period when the first great persecution of the church by the Romans took place. And you can do that research on your own. So Cleopas is writing for the benefit of his grandchildren to stay strong because time is passing, and firsthand witnesses of the resurrection of Jesus are beginning to disperse, being scattered, and also are dying off. And we all know that as time passes, as truth passes from one generation to the next, there is a propensity on the part of the youth to not believe, no matter what parents say is the truth. They want to establish their own truth. That would have been no different during the first century. Now, much of the book takes place between the 2 Sundays of Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday. And that's intentional, because one of my ideas with this book was to create a scenario where a first-hand witness was telling the story of everything that took place during Holy Week and put it in chronological historical order. So as you read this book, some of the references to Cleopas and some of the things that he experiences are not specifically a part of Scripture, but the events that he refers to are in fact things that actually took place in Jerusalem during that last week of Jesus' life. Now, I did that by focusing to a great degree on Easter Sunday morning and what is often referred to as the problem of witnesses on Easter Sunday morning, most specifically Mary Magdalene. She's referred to in the company of different people at the same time. And many scriptural experts have tried to decipher which one is actually closest to the truth. Of course, also those who are not favorably disposed toward the Bible have an opinion that this is actually a contradiction. Of course it is not. So one of the things I wanted to do was try to unravel for the reader what might be a plausible explanation for Mary Magdalene's presence in different places at the same time on Easter Sunday morning. The book begins on Ascension, on the day that Jesus ascends into heaven, so 40 days after the resurrection of Jesus. And then after that first chapter, which is sort of designed to be an emotional thrill to open up the book, the story goes back to the time when Cleopas and Joseph were young men and were learning their craft as teknon, or stonemasons. I don't mean to burst a bubble, but more than likely Jesus did not work with wood. Wood would have been very rare in Galilee, more than likely because most buildings were constructed of stone. And in fact, in Greek, Jesus is referred to as a teknon, as his father was. Jesus would have been most likely someone who worked with stone and not wood. So he would have been a stonemason working on the various building projects, perhaps even some of the Roman buildings in Tiberias that Herod was in the midst of constructing in Galilee. So that's a brief introduction to Cleopas and on the road to Emmaus. I hope you enjoy your reading, and may God bless your study as well. Take care, and greetings to all.